Hello, and welcome to my commentary track for my Super Time Force Ultra run. So, this is a really cool game. It's an action platformer developed by Cappy Games. And the main mechanic of the game is rewinding. So, at any point in the game, you can rewind time. And what actually happens is that what I'm playing through right now, it's all being recorded. So, if I rewind, everything that I'm doing will happen. You will see the ghost of my past self doing everything that I'm doing right now. And at the beginning, you only have 3 characters. I just unlocked one. He's called Jeff Leopard. He's incredibly useful throughout the entire run. And here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna intentionally kill myself, and then stop that death from ever happening. And when that happens, I gain that person as a power-up, and I get double rockets. So whichever character I save, I inherit his charge ability. Characters in this game have 2 attacks, just one normal attack and a charge attack. Every character has one. And what I was able to do there was, with double rockets, I was able to get enough height to rocket jump over a cutscene trigger. And that's actually a trick that was discovered fairly recently. It's really cool. You'd think about, how games are usually broken, and you would think that a time mechanic would be easily broken, but actually most of the broken things in this game are just walls and weird collision. And there I was able to just damage boost through that boss, and there's no barrier after that boss, so I can just go through them. You do get invincibility frames after you take damage. Oh yeah, and also when you're powered up, you basically have 2 hit points. Otherwise, if you're not powered up by saving another character, you just die in 1 hit. So it's a rather punishing game. It's very easy to lose 20 seconds just by dying once. So this boss, this is the first boss of the game. He's pretty straightforward. I just kind of shoot at him a bunch, shoot his weak spots as soon as they become vulnerable.
Oh, I got greedy.
And here I missed a trick. So you'll see me complaining about being slowed down there. Whenever you kill bosses in this game, the game sort of slows down. There's this weird animation, but you can make that animation speed up if you take damage at the same time as the slowdown is occurring.
It could have been like 2:30 or something.
So I am recording this over a VOD I have, so unfortunately you're gonna hear me sort of in the background commentating on the running as it first happened. Yeah, this is the 1990X. It's a Mad Max type apocalypse world. So more rocket jumping. Rocket jumping is super useful throughout the entire run. I basically skipped probably around half of the stage just by rocket jumping. And yeah, this guy, I just shoot a bunch. I think it might be possible to one-cycle this guy, so he's gonna skitter away now. And I think it might be possible to kill him before he goes away. But every time I get close, I'm just like half a second away from just killing him before he goes away. It's always hard. Now this stage is especially tricky because there is a mini-boss at the very end. And if you get there at as quickly as possible, you can kill him pretty much instantly because there are these barrels that are above him. But if you want to actually get there on time, you have a margin of error of about 2 seconds. And actually, right there, I unlocked a character called Melanie, and you're gonna see why. She's very useful in the rest of the run. The first time I use her is going to be on the last boss of this world. So yeah, for this entire world, I basically use just Jeff. Again, he's really good. This stage is incredibly difficult to get right. I think in this run I got an amazing stage. Throughout this entire run, like overall, I got everything really. I didn't get any unintentional hits at all. The only things that I've missed really were well, I pretty much missed every slow-mo cancel. And slow-mo cancels save about 3 seconds, like on average. And there's about, I would say, I think 4 in the entire run. My sum of best is I'm only 30 seconds away from my sum of best.
Yeah, I started to fight
So this is a really solid run.
bit early.
So this next stage is a boss gauntlet of sorts. There is 3 bosses in this stage. And whenever you want to fight bosses, you kill yourself and then save yourself, so you can do much more damage. And it's actually, here you can see why I picked up Melanie. Her shots, when she's doubled up, deal a ridiculous amount of damage, even more than Jeff. So for this, those guys are kind of pushovers, they're not really a big deal, but this final boss is kind of hard to do. So when something in this game is being dealt more than being damaged by more than, I think it's about 16 damage sources. Every damage source that it's above that 16 number deals its damage every single frame. So what happened there is that I shot him twice initially, and then I rewinded, and then synced up my shots with my previous self. And then those shots that I did with my last self dealt like, I don't know, like 6 times the damage that they're actually supposed to, because they were synced up with my previous shots. So by finishing 90X, I just unlocked a character called Cleo, and she's very useful in various other spots in the run. So that's why I do 90X first.
So like, I'm not actually like.
And this stage is actually really cool because it has a neat skip at the end, and it also has these gate hacks with shielding. So you can just, if you just wedge yourself on the top of those wooden spike walls. No, usually if you destroy those, they'll sort of slam down and kill you, but if you hit the right spot with shielding while holding your shield up, you can actually just pass through. So what I'm gonna do is just bounce on this guy's head on his grenades, and then peace out. Just go over the invisible wall that guards the end of the stage. Now this stage is really awkward. It's kind of an escort mission. You'll see I have a health bar on the top left. And that's the missile that I need to make sure survives until the end of the stage, so I can break down the door and end the stage properly. However, I really don't like escort missions, so I'm not going to do that at all. I don't really care about the missile, really. I'm just going to make sure it doesn't die in like the very beginning of the stage. So I'm just going to kill enough enemies to ensure that it doesn't die immediately.
If you don't do everything right from like the very beginning, you're gonna.
That guy's kind of a pushover as well. I just jump over the invisible wall again. All of these invisible wall skips were actually found fairly recently by
It's like you jump
the man
over
himself,
the
Proton,
rocket trigger.
destroyer of video games.
Like you basically go over 2 triggers at the same
He found all of the really useful skips, pretty much. So here you see Cleo for the first time, and Cleo's ability is that she has, every time she attacks, she puts like a boomerang around herself, and it's really useful in this stage because I have to bust through these walls. And busting these walls open with any other character is incredibly inconvenient. You have to slow down a lot, but if I just have boomerangs around myself, I don't have to slow down even a little. And this is really, I think, one of the only major instances in the run where I sort of mix characters together. Most of the time, it's just better to double up on the same character. But here it's really useful to have a combo of different characters.
54. Okay.
And I'm gonna use Cleo on this boss as well, because Cleo is,
Like
as long as your mashing is up to snuff, you can actually just kill this boss really fast. Cleo has actually the sort of best damage output, like in a single character. She basically does the same amount of damage as 2 Jeffs would do, except she doesn't need to double up at all. So she's pretty damn good.
Oh, okay.
You can kill him sometimes with 1 less teleport, but it's kind of weird to do enough damage.
Oh no.
Sometimes you just don't do enough damage sometimes. So we just went back to medieval times to get the Holy Grail so we could eBay it, so that we could get enough money to bail out a medieval themed party shop out of bankruptcy, which is a pretty good use of time travel, I feel. This stage is pretty standard again. You sort of just kill yourself at the beginning. Get double Jeff. Skip over a portion of the stage.
What?
And kill the last boss real fast. The last boss in the stage is
Okay.
like, I don't know what they were thinking when they said this guy's health, because he's basically paper. I just kill him in 2 shots. Bam.
Yeah, that first rocket into the corridor was.
This next stage has a really cool skip at the end.
I think one of the
It's called the Swayze skip,
on the ceiling, which I was really
because you'll see there's like a
I'm pretty
police
sure I
van at
shot
the
in
end
right place.
that has swaz on it. And I believe that's just a tribute to Patrick Swayze by the development team. And it involves taking damage at the right time for you to squeeze past an invisible wall into the end of stage trigger.
Okay.
And I think the reason you can do this is that the van sort of sways, if you will, slightly to the left. And when you're taking damage, you sort of get ejected to the other side of the wall. At least that's the best theory I could come up with. This stage is somewhat of an auto-scroller. It's not entirely an auto-scroller. You do still have to kill these cop vans, or these cop cars, as fast as possible, in order to make the boss appear as fast as possible.
What the?
The way Melanie's damage works is kind of awkward. So she has 2 components to her attacks. She has the direct damage that her pellets do, and she has also when they reach their target, they also explode.
Damn it.
So depending on the hitbox of what they're hitting,
really good slow-mo cancel.
they'll deal a weird amount of damage. This stage is actually one of my favorites thematically. You're sort of like in this really cool Netscape GeoCities sort of internet browser thing. And as you saw, I killed the first boss quite quickly. I was able to wedge myself between the ceiling and the boss, and you can just deal a ridiculous amount of damage because you just murder the boss with the shield. And it's a pretty crazy coincidence that you can actually use the same trick on every single boss on the stage. I don't even know how this happens, but it's really cool. So sometimes you can release your charge attack here, and the boss throws out bombs, and the bombs deal a really good amount of damage. But sometimes you can kill him a bit earlier if you get good RNG. But overall, in the entire run, there's basically no RNG. There's basically this stage, and then the last stage, there's some bombs that can kind of screw you over sometimes with how they're placed.
Like what?
Alright, time to go to Atlantis.
I think that might be because of the stage order. I changed the
And of course, the reason you're going to Atlantis is because you want to save it, and then turn it into the
Oh,
next
shit, I didn't think that
state of America, and turn it into the hottest vacation spot the world has ever known.
Okay, I'm gonna actually focus.
This is the point in the run where I realized, again, I was de-rusting when I got this run, where I was like, oh man, this run is actually really, really good up to this point. So I started to focus more.
Sure I was gonna make that.
So there's a mini boss coming up that is really kind of annoying to deal with. Luckily, Cleo is really good at dealing just a ridiculous amount of damage on her own. She's also really useful in the previous part of the stage. She can just tear through small enemies just without moving. So that's why I use her throughout most of the stage.
Oh, baby. I really didn't want to do that, but I saw the opportunity. That only saves like 1 second or something. It's not a big deal.
So yeah, usually I would not make that jump over that last blue bot. Just because it's kind of risky and I usually can't really tear through those enemies fast enough. But I was actually able to do it there. It only saves about a second, it's not actually a big deal. But it's cool that I got it in this
I
run.
don't want to think about it too much. It's pretty damn good so far.
And here's another stage where I use Melanie's damage stacking technique on the very last boss. There's this section coming up is especially notorious for killing runs. There's just a lot of things that can go wrong in this section. If you, luckily I usually get to this section at a cycle that I'm usually familiar with, so it's not a huge deal, but if you're off by like, I don't know, if you get to that section by, and you're like off by like a second, you will have a bad time. So once again, I'm gonna just shoot this guy once with double Melanie, and then time out, and then sync my shots with another Melanie, and then just kill him in one shot.
I almost didn't shoot down. That would've been real bad. I'm on this stupid platform though, so I'm wasting like 2 seconds.
So yeah, there's this little cutscene that plays out whenever you kill the boss. Whenever you kill that one boss, you lose control of your character entirely. What you actually want to do there, I didn't get it unfortunately, but you want to drop down to where the boss is, so you can just immediately drop down that hole. So here's another Cleo stage. Again, she's really useful against just small enemies and these poop coils. They're otherwise pretty much impossible to go through if you're any other character, without slowing down a fair deal. So yeah, Cleo is definitely the character for this stage. That asset doesn't actually hurt you. I don't know. It's kind of silly. Oh yeah, and this boss you can sort of cheese pretty easily, just stay in this corner and just mash. The bosses in this game are not really, they're not really a huge threat, honestly. Except for the last boss and the one before it. They're kind of hard to do optimally.
Oh dude, I missed
because you have to lead your shots correctly and so forth. I'll talk more about them whenever I get here. Or get there, I should say. Actually, this boss is kind of hard, actually. This is probably the most time-intensive boss there is in terms of execution. So you want to set up your death just right, so you can double up at the right time and deal enough damage. So you really want to make this boss fight as short as possible, because as you can see, there's like 1 million enemies on screen. There's a really cool cutscene where you can see the Atlantis god that we just saved eat a giant sandwich, and the cutscene goes on for like a minute. It's a really long sandwich. So now we're on our way to prehistoric times, and the reason for this is that we want to save the dinosaurs from extinction, so that you can integrate them to normal society, because dinosaurs are rad, dude. So, actually Atlantis is a really cool world, just because it's a break from Jeff, basically. But now we're back to Jeff. You know, Jeff's pretty cool and all, but the other characters are, you know, cool as well. And now I'm gonna fight a giant robot mech dinosaur that shoots lasers and has a flamethrower guy in its mouth. You know, standard stuff. So the character that was just killed there is Zachosaurus. He's a really cool character. He's a skateboarding dinosaur. But unfortunately, he's not useful in the run. Which is a shame, because you don't really lose time at all from saving him. He's, you know, right there. But unfortunately, I've yet to find a use for him, unfortunately. That's the one thing I want to find in this game, is just find a broken thing. I just want to break this game with that character, so I can finally get an excuse to use the skateboarding dinosaur. Maybe one day. So at the beginning of the stage, I used a camera manipulation trick to sort of trigger the AI of the enemies a bit later than they should. And that allowed me to do the beginning of the stage without getting killed, basically. Because if you try to do the beginning section of the stage without that manipulation, you will 100% be dead. Oh yeah, and at the very end of that stage, I skipped over a cutscene by... I landed on the very edge of that top platform. And I basically just rocket jumped into the end cutscene. Or the end of the stage, rather. Not much to say for this stage. It's probably the easiest stage in this game. You kind of just hold right and spam a bunch of boomerangs to stop these asteroids from killing you. There's a robot. You probably didn't see the robot because he barely got on screen. And you have to kill him to make the stage progress. So next boss is Dr. Infinity. Dr. Infinity is basically the last boss of each world, essentially. So I do a neat little death setup there, and make him disappear before he kills me. And he has this missile phase. Now, usually, what would happen to people who are playing this game for the first time, they would go through this phase twice, where he throws out his missiles and you have to take him down. However, if you do a very specific number of shots here, and set his health just right, you can actually skip the second set of missiles. There's also a slow-mo cancel that you could do here. Off his shots he does, but it's incredibly difficult to time, and it's not really something you can get consistently. So I'm about to enter the very last world of the game, and the very first stage of this new world is a refight, basically. And there I unlocked Repeatski, which is the commander of the Super Time Force. Unfortunately, he's not useful at all. Unfortunately. So yeah, this is a refight. So instead of having two weak points, he has 4. Which makes the boss a bit more difficult, but not that much, really. But you do have to time your shots a lot more carefully, because his weak spots actually rotate constantly. So actually, if you mess up your shots too much, they'll be on different cycles, which is something you kind of don't want. And they change rotation directions as well. So you have to anticipate you have to place your shots rather well if you want to go fast. And there you can actually, I missed the slow-mo cancel again, unfortunately. But the slow-mo cancel in this fight is a lot harder than the first, because you basically have to kill him right after you shoot a charge shot. So you have less time to finish him off there. So here I actually use a character called Amy. She's a really cool character. And the reason I use her is because her charge shot, it shoots through solid platforms. And basically this whole stage is centered around just hitting these switches to advance in the stage. You can also use the recoil of the sniper to gain a little bit of height in certain cases. Now, usually I would use Jeff for a stage like this, but the platforms at the beginning are not actually solid, so I can't actually use the explosion from my rockets to propel myself upwards. And now I'm about to enter the last fight of this game. And I'm going to use Melanie. Now this boss has a ridiculous amount of health. Luckily, Melanie does a ridiculous amount of damage, so that works out quite well. So this phase has a pretty rough RNG. You see these sort of bombs coming down, and they can screw you over sometimes with the way they land. Luckily here I got a really, really good pattern where they just kept themselves out of the way entirely. And you can just pretty much one-cycle those drills if you place your shots correctly. It's incredibly easy here, if you're just learning the game, to die on this boss repeatedly, because you can cut it pretty tight on time. You have 60 seconds to end the stage. And that's it. I did it. Sub 27. Really good run. I do plan to improve this run at some point in time. But for right now, this run is really solid. It's a super really good showcase of the game. And just to end the commentary, I would just like to give a shout out to just, all the buddies that have speedrun this game for a while. Even if it was for, a very short time, the entire community. Protong, Wesker, Namki, Zexrex, and Laz. Laz, unfortunately, did not stick around with this game for any huge amount of time, but he still ran the game, so that's cool. And Protong actually, he put a lot of work into this game as well. He discovered, a lot of tricks, a lot of optimizations and such. Really, I'm just a grind monkey, and he's really the one that figured everything out. This was my first speed game that I ever ran, so I did I did a lot of mistakes when I was trying to route this game. Thinking that something is not possible and then sort of staying away from it is a pretty bad idea if you actually want to, improve a game by a significant amount. You gotta go in, man. Hold nothing back. Wesker also discovered some tricks. Pretty much everybody discovered a little something that was put in the run. But yeah, shout outs to those guys. And shout outs to Cappy. They've been very supportive of the speedrunning community for this game. In fact, there was a trick. Actually, the first time I played this game was on console. It first came out on 360, and there was actually an invisible wall in that version that was added in the PC version, and I messaged the developer saying, like, dude, what the hell? There's this really dumb invisible wall that shouldn't be here. Why is it here? And sure enough, he removed it. So that was really cool of him. So yeah, really love those guys. And with that, that's gonna be the end of my commentary track. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the run as much as I liked playing it. So yeah, goodbye.